Hello friends. The Kannada writer U.R. Ananthamurthy, his novel SAMSKARA is about the rituals. The SAMSKARA word means rituals. Some essential actions that arise out of one's idea of what is good, what is necessary, and something which is done with a good intention. So, all those actions which are done with the intention of doing good are samskars. And since this novel is about a handful of Brahmins, only at times set into doldrums by the presence of a low caste woman, the said low caste woman Chandri. And she is the one who brings out the samskars among these Brahmins. So, this novel is an estimation of what is the action that needs to be performed by the Brahmins here, since they are the major characters, and what is the good intention which drives them. So, good intention, if we look at the word, this is dharma. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is the duty, the justice, the law, ethics, religious merit, principle, and right. The idea of doing something right, doing as per the need of the hour, is dharma. Let us now look into this interpretation of samskara as a document of dharma. In Hinduism, a person is offered many paths towards salvation depending on his or her caste. It is here the caste which is most operative. If one is a Brahman, then his duty, his sense of justice, his sense of law and ethics, religious merit, principles, and right will definitely be different from the other religions, which are the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Shudras. The duty, the sense of duty, the word, the most operative sense here is duty. So, if we look at the two characters here, Praneshcharya, the one who is supposed to be the crest jewel of the society, and Naranappa, who has defiled himself, being born in the body in the religion of Brahmins, and who has given to ways which are not supposed to be the duties. Now let us see what actually is the dharma for a Brahman. What is the duty of the Brahman? The duty of the Brahman is to live in accordance with the duties which as divided by the age. So, the first ashram for a Brahman is the Brahmacharya ashram, in which he studies scriptures and holy texts and all learning, whatever branch of learning he might be wanting to pursue. That when he studies is his first ashram. The second is the Grihastha ashram, where he marries and performs the functions of carrying forward his family name. Then comes the Vanaprastha, which comes about the age of 50, in which and when the average age of man was understood as 100 years, then the third fourth of his life, which becomes the Vanaprastha, in which he leaves the worldly pleasures and seeks more meaning to himself. And the last is the sannyas ashram, where he actually gives off everything and just spends his life towards attaining more meaning to his existence. Now let us look at the character of Praneshcharya. The Praneshacharya has in fact trespassed all these ashrams. He began his life as the student of religion, and he only lives as a celibate student and has continued to stay in the Brahmacharya ashram until while he is about to sit for food. Although he is married to a woman by the name Bhagirathi, and who married her only with the view to become more austere by staying with the woman and still observing celibacy. And in the service of this an invalid, this disabled, physically challenged woman and a sick and ailing woman, when he offers her washes and offers her food and takes care of her, applies medicines on her, the main drive behind him, the dharma that he follows, is the dharma of a brahmachari. Woman before him, and yet he would keep a constraint upon his physical desires. So he stays, even when he is a householder, a grihastha, he observes celibacy. So he is not in fact following the dharma. And when Chandri comes and informs him that Naranappa is dead, he has succumbed to the plague that infested him, Naranappa, who was a man given to carnal pleasures, who had Sundri, who had Chandri for his concubine, and with whom he had had every pleasure, and even at the cost of giving up his own wife, and thus polluted himself in the estimate of the Brahmins that lived there. When Praneshcharya is reported about the death of Naranappa, he tries to follow the dharma. Although he was just about to begin with his food, he gives the idea that when once a body is lying in the neighborhood ready to be cremated, it is not desirable for a person to go in and have food. So this Praneshcharya, he tries to talk to the people around and bring them in to give their opinion of what actually to do with the body of Naranappa, who has fallen so low in the eyes of the people that he will not be given the samskara, the antim samskara, the final rites of that should be given to a body that is not alive anymore. So people are not, they outrightly discard the idea of providing the cremation, the rightful cremation to the body of Naranappa. And it is disgusting to see that Chandri, who has no place in this agrahara, the society of the Brahmins, where she has no place, she dares to work for the cremation of Naranappa. She offers the dharma. She performs the dharma and does the work which not many would have ever chosen to do in this colony of the Brahmins. So, here comes the complex question of, is duty being performed by these Brahmins? The people who stood on the highest seat in the social division, settled down by Manu, the first man. Is duty being performed? If Naranappa was wrong in his denial of the duty as Brahmins, are these people living in the Brahman colony not guilty of the same when they deny the final sanskara? Is touching a body or a dead body of a defiled man going to defile them? Does man live only on the physical plane? Is his existence limited to only the limbs and the appendages and the face that come to appear as his form on earth? In attempting to answer this question, Praneshcharya, he is baffled by this, that Naranappa, after death, does he retain his Brahmanhood? Or because while still alive, because he gave up the Brahmanic ways, should he not be accorded the rightful cremation? So, in attempting to answer this question, Praneshcharya begins a spiritual journey. So, the dharma of the Grihasthashram, which Praneshcharya had negated completely, he is brought back on the track to find for himself that spiritual journey in which the question becomes whether or not he has truly fulfilled his dharma in the way he has lived his life. So the story brings us, Ananthamurthy lands us back into this pivotal question, that do actions really are the only determinants of the personality of someone? If one has at one point of time committed an error, should he be condemned forever? So, Ananthamurthy makes it obvious to the reader that this is the most important question, where Chandri secretly cremates Naranappa's body. A woman who is said to be defiled, degenerate, she accords the samskara to Naranappa because she has lived with him. She feels she has an inclination of duty towards him, and that in a Hindu society, if a Brahman body is not given it, or any body is not given it, it is like too much against the dharma. So Chandri does it. Thus, the question of the final rites no longer exists. And we are set in a state wherein we look up to the people, the Brahmins, who, in what position, in what sense of duty will they perform the dharma, and most particularly Praneshcharya, whose every intention, whose every action in his life was dedicated to his obtaining salvation. Whatever he did, all his actions were diverted towards obtaining that ultimate salvation. Now, there is a Hindu belief that someone who can restrain himself, who can observe celibacy, becomes a very strong person. So, in that sense, Praneshcharya should have been a very strong person. But when he sees Chandri fight for the cremation of Naranappa, and when he meets her in the dark of the woods, and when Chandri, afraid of having cremated a Brahman, there are complex questions. Why does Chandri cling to Praneshcharya and brings him down from his until now enjoyed seat of glory, his seat of wisdom, his seat of learning, and his seat of duty towards his body when he was doing the study of the scriptures, and his duty towards his conscience when he was taking care of his wife. She shakes him down, and here Praneshacharya succumbs to her bodily charms. Now this brings us Ananthamurthy, bring us to that state where his audience is perforce made to come to a decision. What next? What now will be the fate of Praneshcharya, who in the weakness of a moment has surrendered to the charms of the woman, who he did not care to attend when she was pleading for the cremation of Naranappa? Is it right for him to have taken this moment of weakness over? Why does he fall? What causes him now to do this act? And what will be the consequences next? Driven by guilt, he stays in the forest. He does not know what to do with the body that he has defiled himself. And that after the death of someone whose cremation was denied by the whole society. And this woman, when she gives it, is he driven to a kind of awe and respect for this woman who fights every odd, who fights a whole set of the Brahmins clan? So was it that made him weak to this, the occasion of fall? And he falls. But because he is a learned man, because he was until now possessed of his will, so he is driven to remorse and a complete sense of guilt, and which does not allow him to go back to his home. And very unfortunate for him that Bhagirathi dies. If we can understand what Ananthamurthy has in mind, what is his concept of dharma, does it coincide with the meaning of dharma which the Brahmins should have had? Does it coincide with the feeling of dharma, the sense of dharma as society should have had in this given situation? So the things which happen later on are they are as if the satanic fall, occupied with the, the desire to hold into his grip the heavens. Lucifer invited the fall upon himself. So also is Praneshcharya taken down into the fall. And should we decide that it is a woman again that has been the, the reason of fall of Adam? If we think Praneshacharya as Adam, is Eve the temptress? Is Chandri the temptress for the fall of Adam, the fall of Praneshacharya? This is the concept of duty. Duty which one should have to the fellow beings, to the word of the Maker. If Praneshacharya has had God as the Father for whom he was working, for whose reign he was striving to reach out, did he perform his duty? So the concept of dharma is the concept of duty, is the concept of justice, law, and social ethics in relation to not just Praneshacharya, who has lived austere until 1 week moment, to Naranappa, who forever condemned the dictates of the society where he was born, the clan, the group where he was born, the Brahman caste where he was born, who negated it and also died at the hands miserably due to plague. And what is the dharma of Chandri and society as a whole? That is a pivotal question for us to analyze the meaning of the title of this novel, Samskara. Samskara, the ideal doings, the 4 ashrams, the duties of the 4 ashrams, and dutifulness in totality go on to describe the title of this novel, Samskara. This is all for today. Thank you.